Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Thrive Like a Parent podcast. Today, I am not alone, which I always love. I am here with Dr. Morgan Cutlip, and she and I are going to speak about her new book that is coming out called Love Your Kids Without Losing Yourself. And Dr. Morgan and I connected, I don't know, a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a few reels together and had some fun. And it's been so amazing to watch your growth and just kind of have you as someone who I can trust and someone within this community of, frankly, moms who are also working, who are also in the social media space of saying, hey, we're out here. We want to help you. And you are an incredible human and have such a kind and loving heart inside and out. And I'm so excited for everyone to get to know you, get to know all about your book. And I was very lucky. I got a little preview. And so I have read it. And so we will discuss a few things in it and a little teaser for all of you listening to hear kind of what to expect. But I cannot tell you enough positive things about this book. And I don't want you to just kind of like think on it. I want you to run to go pick up your copy because honestly, I was scrolling back through it, even though I've read it. And I was almost in tears today. And I was like, could she be more on the money? Like, could she be more on point? And I think that we as women and moms, we need to know that you're not alone. And I really feel that you did such a phenomenal job of this. So with all of that, welcome, Dr. Morgan.
I got goosebumps. You're so generous with your praise. Thank you. I adore you. You came on when I had a podcast. You were on our podcast too.
Yeah.
So I just feel like everything you're saying, I just feel so much of like the same toward you. I just think you're wonderful and amazing. And I appreciate you allowing me to, come on here and talk with you and be in front of your audience. So thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you something and start our conversation with something that I ask a lot of my clients. And
Uh-oh.
I know, right? I would love for you to tell me how you are feeling today. And I would love one-word answers. So I feel blank. And it can be as many one-word answers as you'd like. But I would love to hear how you're feeling today with so much going on in your life.
I feel overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel grateful.
Mm-hmm.
I feel tired. I feel a little sweaty. It's humid here in California right now. I feel energized, which is weird to say tired and energized, but I do feel both. And I'm excited and I'm anxious, like in a hurried sense, not like an anxiety sense, but just like, let's do this type of feeling. Sorry, you didn't ask for elaboration, but we leave for Ohio tomorrow and my husband is not here. So I'm like, I still have to pack and all the things. So that's heavy on my mind. Yeah. I think those are the main ones that are at the forefront for me right now.
I would love for you, if you're willing to elaborate on some of those feelings of where that's coming from. You just said, you're going on a trip. And I know this, our listeners don't, but you have a husband who travels a lot. And so you are doing the solo gig a lot. But tell me a little bit more about what else those feelings are coming from or where they're coming from.
Yeah, I think, I was speaking to you before we started and I was like, I'm trying to do this thing where I'm working 2 days a week and I'm launching my book, which is like just something that has been on my heart for, over 10 years. And so to have it finally be happening, and also I'm like, well, it's important for me to be with my kids. Like that's just a value that I feel my best when I'm living congruent with. And so I'm working 2 days in the summer and I really need like 10 days a week. It doesn't even exist. And so I think that I sort of am living in this little bit of a state of overwhelm that I am accepting for this season of my life, and accepting this experience and really frustrating feeling of, I'm just not going to get it all done on my timeline. Like it's going to get done. I'm going to get it. It's just how I function, but it's not on my timeline. And I'm going to finish the days being like, I wish I would have had a little more time. And that's just sort of accepting it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful to be able to put a book in the world. It feels like such a privilege to be, whoever devotes any amount of time to picking up my book and reading it. I am just so humbled and grateful. And so I feel constantly grateful and joyful around that and just excited about what's to come. I found out yesterday that was supposed to happen in August, but it's happening next week. I'm going to be going on a TV show. I'm not going to say which one, and it's a big deal. And so that's happening from Ohio, which we're leaving for tomorrow. And so having to pack and then also situate myself for that interview, I'm feeling a little bit like a little anxious about and excited and overwhelmed by. And it's a stupid thing, but also I care about what I wear on the show.
Totally.
And so I'm trying to figure that out. And then, my husband is not here, and he's, the summer, you imagine like things slow down, but not really in his line of work. And so there's been a lot of solo parenting. And so I just find that I'm tired a lot because I give all day, whether it's to my work or to the kids. And then by the time the end of the day rolls around, when you really need backup, I don't have it most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Sure.
That's very exciting that you're going on a show. I can't wait to hear which one and
Thank
the
you.
things. And I'm sure you will announce that very soon.
Yes.
I love the way that you're really being vulnerable and honest here today, just about your life and yourself. Is exactly how you were in the book.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just give knowledge, but you give tangible life experiences. I'm not even going to say examples, but like life experiences that happen on a regular basis within your life. Honestly, as you are writing the book, you're like, well, yesterday this happened. And I cannot explain the value of what that does to support someone else, of saying like, oh, wow, like, thank you for sharing that with me. That feels so aligned with what I'm going through. And yet so many women and parents, not just women, men too, don't want to speak about it. They don't want to talk about it. They think they're, broken, or they think they're crazy, or they think that they're a lesser value if they discuss any type of hardship and any type of struggles within parenthood. And one of the parts of your book that you really discuss that I love is kind of explaining that. It's explaining, like, it's okay to simply be enough. It's okay to be yourself. And it's okay to know that good is good enough.
Yeah. So back when I was originally like putting the concept of the book together and talking with my agent around what the book would be like, she was she's saying, oh, you're writing from you're a PhD, what is the angle you want to take? And I had said to her, I want it to feel like you're sitting down to coffee with one of your closest friends who has credentials. Like, I want to walk that line between, I'm a mom. I homeschool part-time. I work only part-time. I'm the main caregiver of our kids. I have help with like pick up and drop off. So like I live this stuff too. And I needed that and wanted that to come through because you sort of got to be like in it to really talk about it, I think, in some ways. And so I'm so glad you said that. I'm glad that it came through in that way. And, the original title of the book was called Mom Enough, and we changed it. And part of why we changed it is because, I feel like this idea of being enough is sort of played out. We're told all the time, oh, you're enough. What you're doing is enough. And it's like, well, I don't know. Is it? And we question ourselves. And so I do lay out in the book, a strong argument as to why good enough is better than perfect. Because I so think we are existing in a time in parenting where even if we don't really say we're trying to be perfect, a lot of our actions and behaviors and thoughts are holding us to the standard of perfection. And so it provides a really clear case as to like, good enough really is good enough. This is not lip service. This is not a pat on the back. This is why good enough really matters and is better for our kids and ourselves.
Absolutely. And I'm going to try not to be emotional when I say this. So hopefully, since I just said that, I won't be emotional. But for me as a human, and I think why I connected with your book so greatly was a plethora of reasons. And I was like, it was one of those books where I was nodding the whole time, like, yes, yes, yeah, like, yes, agreed, like, yes, yes, yes. And it's like, these are the words that people, parents, not just moms, like parents need to hear. And it's because when Jonathan passed, like,
Yeah.
I had to release the perfection. Like, I grew up, and you speak of this too, of like how you grew up and all the things, and us as individuals taking a look at that of how we grow up. But I grew up with an incredible mom. Like, I'm talking like not just A plus, like A plus 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 plus. Like, our house was always stunning and perfect and clean, and she did all the things, and my mom always looked phenomenal. And like I can't even say enough about my mom. But at the same time, I also learned, and it wasn't that she forced that on me. It's just that was my model. So that's what I thought. That's what I thought it should look like. And now I've had to release that. Like, I've had to release, okay, like maybe I'm not hosting as many dinner parties with all the perfect napkins. And like, I was looking from like my wedding gifts the other day, like the napkin rings. I'm like, who has
Who
time for
uses
that?
those?
Like, what are we doing? But like, to release the perfection and say, it's okay to simply be a human. And that's what I believe is totally missing within, our parents' generation. And I feel that the younger generation is for sure getting that vibe,
Mhm.
especially because of the extent of humanness on social media, of just
Mhm.
like vulnerability and this is who I am and hardships and all the things. But I kind of feel like we are stuck in the middle. Like, our generation is
Mhm.
kind of stuck of like, but it was this way, but you're telling me I can go that way, but like this
Yes.
doesn't feel good.
Yes. We're like the older millennials. I'm probably
Yeah.
older than you. But this is an important thing that not a lot of us think about, which is that the way that we were mothered dramatically impacts the mom we will become and the
Mm-hmm.
expectations we will hold ourselves to. And so, I learned the same lesson, and you kind of like learn these things the hard way sometimes. So I'm hoping my book will get in front of it for some women.
Yeah.
But I tell the story in the book of like, my mom and dad are very traditional. I had
Mm-hmm.
great parents, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just how it worked out. And she cooked everything, cleaned everything, and my dad was helpful, but she did it all. And I I just like picked up right where she left off.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I was like, why am I doing everything? I'm starting to get resentful. I was in school working on my doctorate while also working, while also taking care of all the things. And then, one day it just hit me, okay, this is what I saw. It doesn't need to be what I repeat. It's not
Yes.
working for our family. It's not working for me. It's not working for us. It's not serving our relationship. It's not serving my mental health. And I think this is what I'm hoping also the book opens up for people, for moms who read it, is that let's bring this into your awareness. How are
Mm-hmm.
you mothered, and how is that impacting the expectations you hold yourself to? Okay, let's put them on the table. Do they work for you,
Mm-hmm.
or do we need to make some edits? Because you
Mm-hmm.
can. That's
Yep.
like the beauty of being a grown up. Make some edits.
Yep. And but the releasing, like, I love that you're saying you're hoping this book brings awareness, because that honestly to me is the first step of like
Yes.
any of this. Everything you're teaching, everything I'm teaching, it's the awareness and the knowledge of like, oh wait, it doesn't have to be that way. Oh wait, like, how does my brain work, right? Like, that's the whole
Yes.
premise of like why we are strong driven women, is like, hey, like, I've realized these things, and like I would love for you to be able to feel how good it feels to move through, honestly, the healing process of releasing
Mm-hmm.
after the awareness. And that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. I'm sure you question yourself all the time,
All the
still
time.
bringing back in, right?
Mm.
The behaviors or the model that we were shown, but we now have the awareness that we can question those things, and we can accept ourselves for how we as individual humans want our lives to look, even if that looks wildly different.
Yes. I mean, I think what you're saying is so key. And I do talk about this book in the book too. And just, I feel like I've been saying the same thing for years. And I know you operate from the same perspective, but it's information is empowering. I think
Mhm.
sometimes we would think like, this mentality of like, I don't want to know, like information kind of traps you. But I think it's empowering when you define something, when you understand the invisible experiences and put language to them, you can change them, you can shift them, you can release it, you are so equipped then to do something about it. And that
Mhm.
becomes very powerful.
Yep. Yep. I want to go to a quote that I've taken a few of the quotes from your book, and I loved this
Oh.
one, where you said, "We can't parent our kids with intention and care while abandoning ourselves for the cause." And I could not uh, believe that more within my gut of and my internal system of like, I am going to snap at my kids. I am going to show up as not the human I want to be when I'm not taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And for me individually, I could be doing all the things. I could be caring for myself. That still doesn't mean that I'm going to show up in the best way. So it's okay if we still have hard days, even if we're showing up for ourselves. But at the end of the day, I do believe that, if you're not doing what you love, or if you're not taking time for yourself, if you're not caring for yourself, there is no humanly way when you pick up your kids from school, or when they wake up in the morning, or when you're putting them to bed, like, there's no way possible you're going to be a cheery, happy person. Like, okay, let's read another book, or like, okay, let's wipe your tushy. Like, it's not going to happen. Right? I mean,
When do
right?
those days end? I'm still wiping.
Oh,
I'm still wiping a butt over here. My kids are big.
mm,
Whew, it's better than poopy undies.
mhm. It's true. It's so true.
Okay, sorry, I got distracted. So, sorry, holy moly. That's what you say, poopy undies, and then you're like, oh, I know. So, I think we are fed messages as moms. It's really tricky as I'm talking about my book of being careful of just saying the same cliches that we have fallen, like we've just shut down to hearing.
Mm,
One of it, like, put your oxygen mask on
mhm.
first. You can't pour from an empty cup. All this stuff, and I think like those sentiments I agree with. They make sense. But like, let's peel back the layers and get to the core meaning of what we're trying to say here. And it's exactly what you're saying, which is that, you know, it's not just to give to yourself so you can give to others. It's that when you don't take care of yourself and nurture your relationship with you, you are going to develop resentment, anger, irritation, all of the things you talk about with like the overstimulation and the sensory overload and all these dysregulation.
Yep.
And you are going to be bitter in your relationships with the people you love most. And you're becoming bitter by giving them everything. So it's like you are self sabotaging your
Mhm.
ultimate goal of wanting to be like such an amazing mom by being so burnt out trying to be such an amazing mom that you are now grumpy, and then you don't even like yourself as a mom, and it becomes this vicious cycle. And so we got to nurture ourselves, because that allows us to be the moms, the parents we want to be in our most precious relationships. I think the other thing you're speaking to, which was so key, is that you're like, we can do all the things and still have those moments. And
Yep.
that is where I start, because that we have got to normalize that you do not do all the things and become self-actualized and just stay there forever.
Right.
Life, like, I know, like, life comes at you fast.
Oh, yeah.
It's constantly throwing things our way, good things, bad things. Like my stuff this week's, my stuff this week is good things, and it's stressing me out a bit. So life will regularly pull our relationships apart, our relationship with ourselves with our kids, with our partner, if you have one. And so, it's normal to do the things and like have life just mess you up and still, kind of become dysregulated or snap and all this stuff. And that's why I think that this idea of reaching a perfect resting state of balance has to be demystified, because
Mhm.
when we think we're doing the things and we still mess up, I'm doing quotes, mess up, we then judge ourselves, and then that depletes us more. But it needs to be normalized. It's still going to happen. We have to
Yep.
get really good at getting into a practice of
Mhm.
regularly pulling ourselves back into alignment.
And I think that's also the acceptance of good is good enough. Like going back to that concept
Yeah.
too of like, if you're crying for the day or you're just like, mom's not doing well today, like that's still good enough because we're human. And I also don't think that we as parents really think that it's okay to demonstrate that to our kids,
Mhm.
right? To be like, hey, I'm actually a human, not, a perfect, like I don't know how my mom did it. Like, I don't even, like, I have no idea. I'm sure it was wildly exhausting, but
Yes.
I feel that it's okay to show that humanness to our kids in order for them to see that model of, it's more than okay to allow yourself to be human too. It is more than okay to take off the mask or rip down the walls and just be like, yep, today was a hard day. And
Yep.
it's okay to feel that. And then I cannot stress this enough. I feel that because our children see that, they won't hold it in when they're
Mhm.
struggling.
Mhm.
And for me, that's like so important because Jonathan did. Like
Mhm.
he did not like no one knew, and I accepted that, and I allowed that, and I respected it because that's what he wanted. And
Mhm.
when you say like we can't do it all, we can't be it all, we can't, you know, all the things flourish without taking care of ourselves first, like I'm going to speak and say, yes, I agree with you, but it's also from experience of trying to do that, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
do you feel that there was a time in your life where you did try to do it all and you were like, wait a
Oh,
second?
100%. I think there are moments of my life where still it can creep in. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I got to keep myself in check.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to do because my husband's gone so much. It's really easy to do. But I mean, I'd say the first 5 years of motherhood, that's how I operated. I did it
Mhm.
all. I took it on. I rescued everybody. I didn't ask for hardly anything. I felt like I put my husband out when I did ask, even though he'd never indicated that I did. That's just how it felt to me because I had all these beliefs around asking for what I need that got in my way. And so I lived it. And then I lived all the stuff I talk about in my book, which is how do you get out of it? And
Mhm.
to what you were saying before, I just want to add on to, because it's so important. You're talking about when we show our humanness, right, to our kids, it's modeling something really important to them. And also like how then you kind of like work through it. So if you lose it and
Mhm.
you maybe, need to apologize and repair, like all this stuff is teaching them certain things. And I think the more I live, the more I think that adults and kids like kind of all are the same. Like we just maybe cover things better. But
Yep.
it's like, I've seen adult tantrums. I've had adult tantrums. And I've think about like how raw they are when they complain about stuff. And I'm like, secretly, I'm complaining on the inside too. Like there's
Yes.
so much similarity in
Yes.
all our reactions and experiences. We just are kind of coping a bit differently. And I think that's, in the book, part of, or one of really the main takeaways is that we have to mother ourselves like we mother our kids. And
Mhm.
so, when you talk about messing up and allowing your humanness, I think that's part of it is like, how would you walk your child through one of those moments? Okay, now do the same for you. like
Yes.
like we're so good at applying this caretaking and this compassion towards our other relationships, but we do not use these skills on ourselves, and it's really not a whole new skill set. It's just flipping the script a little bit. And so I believe it's really important, and it's like kids and adults are having these parallel experiences all the time, so why not care for ourselves also in these parallel ways?
1,000%. I think, and I've spoken about this before, sometimes think that we don't want to deal with the tantrums of our kids or the meltdowns of our kids because we are having our own tantrum and meltdown, to be quite
100%.
honest, because we don't have any
100%.
capacity to deal with theirs because we haven't dealt with ours.
Yes,
Like
for
we just
sure.
haven't. And to
For
be
sure.
frank with you, when I actually go there and I like have a moment where I'll allow myself to cry or allow myself to even share with my boys, like mommy is just having a really hard day and like there's tears streaming down, what comes from that is like the most connective, beautiful
Mhm.
moment or conversation or relationship. And that's at the end of the day, ultimately what we want. We want our children to feel safe, and we want to feel at the end of the day connections with the people, like you're saying, that we love most, right?
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
I mean, that's like the goal here,
That's
right?
what
Is
it's
to,
all yeah, what it's
yeah.
all about is having a close and connected relationship, a close and connected relationship with our kids, with ourselves, with, if we have a partner with them, because like these all play off of each other
Mm-hmm.
and impact each other in such significant ways. But I've had the same experience. I mean, it wasn't, I don't know, like a week or two ago, I was like kind of getting teary. I was making dinner or something, and our son Roy, he like walks up and he's like, "Are you crying? What's going on?" And I was like, "I'm sorry." I was like, "It's not about you." And then we had this wonderful discussion. I'm having a
Mm-hmm.
hard day. Here's what's going on. Here's what I'm doing about it. And like, I love that you checked on me,
Yep.
and talked it through. And like, that's cultivating empathy and compassion and open communication and vulnerability. And it's like so much richness in these moments.
Yeah. And letting our kids know it's okay to see that, letting them know we are human, and letting them know it's okay for them to be human.
Yes.
So I want to, it's not really pivoting, but I want to talk a little bit about how you speak to relationships within the book, which I think is so important. And I want to speak to this because of personally, I feel that it's so wildly important to really tune into your relationship while being a parent, which a lot of times, let's face it, like we don't, or we don't have enough time to.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said is, if life inevitably pulls your relationship apart and your relationship does not autocorrect, you must learn to be an active manager of your relationship. And I
Yeah.
love this because you're reminding readers that we all need to put in effort. It's not one or the other.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I know. So this book focuses primarily on relationship with kids and relationship with self. And so I
Yep.
touch on, like, if you really analyze things a little bit, everything I talk about applies to, for the most part, relationship with partner. The
Yep.
model I give in the book is a model of relationships. We have a couples course built around this model. My next book will be on the mental load, which will be all about the couple dynamics that I'll be talking about even more in depth. But I mean, that principle
Mm-hmm.
of we don't autocorrect, life's going to mess us up, we don't autocorrect, and we have to be active managers of our relationship applies to how we interact with our kids, with ourselves, and with our partners. And
Mm-hmm.
you find time, and this is not what I get into in the book, but I can get on this soapbox any day. You'll find time and time again, research shows it, that the managers of relationships tend to be women in their
Mm-hmm.
romantic partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what's so great about these principles is if you can get both partners on board with this, and then it shares the responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then I think specifically for women is what we find is that we are so good at managing our relationships. But again, somehow we forget about that relationship with self. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a reminder again to moms that this piece of it is really important. I mean, and the thing is too, is like the more, deprived you are, the more you self-sacrifice for the preservation of all of your other relationships, the more resentful you're going to become. And that's going to dramatically impact your partnership, how you
Yep.
see them, how you treat them. And that has a feedback loop as well that
Mm-hmm.
becomes really detrimental.
Mm-hmm. So, one of the other things that I loved about your book was how you discuss trust, relying boldly on others. I love that you said having needs does not make you needy, and the importance of touch, which I could go into
Oh,
every
yeah.
single one of those, but I want to touch on the two that like really spoke to me most, which is, yes, you have to have all the trust in the world and you have to rely boldly on others, but the having needs doesn't make you needy part. And it's this message that we tell ourselves if we need something, or we need to rely on others, or we need to go do things for ourselves or take care of ourselves, or, you know, refill our cup, right? Like do the
Mhm.
pour into ourselves. Like it doesn't mean that you're high maintenance. It doesn't mean that you're crazy or needy or like a pain in the butt. Like, it doesn't mean any of those things. It again, it means you're human.
Exactly. Well, let me like give context and then I'll talk about what you're
Yes.
saying. So in my book, the core chapters, like the meat of the book, is around 5 steps to like manage your relationship with yourself. So it's a framework
Yep.
and it's a model versus, and like I guess a system, and call it different things, versus just like a list of things that I'm giving moms to do.
Mhm.
And so the like rely boldly and trust accurately, those things are part of the steps. And so
Yep.
then in each chapter I break it down and go deep and then kind of give skills. So the needy piece is so close to my heart because in my own life, I dealt with this. It's like not an issue anymore. But I hear about it every single day from women, which is that they don't feel comfortable asserting their needs, speaking their needs. They feel uncomfortable even really having many needs. And they sometimes don't even know what they need, especially after becoming a mom.
Yep.
And, I think as a culture, as a society, we absorb different messages around what it means to have needs. And one of the messages is this idea of everyone's needs come before yours.
Yes.
You are the keeper, protector of your relationships, even if it means martyring and sacrificing yourself. And there is no pull so strong as when you become a mom to do this. And you kind of have to. You have to for a little bit because these babies need you to survive. But we sort of get locked in. And then we fast forward like 2, 3, 4, 5, took me 5, some people even longer years.
Yes.
And then we're like, holy moly, I don't even know what I need. I have backburnered myself for so long.
Yep.
So like I talk about this in all different aspects of the book. How do you understand, your relationship with having needs? What messages did you receive growing up? Attachment style actually has a lot to do with this as well. And like also this idea of, when did your needs go away? I mean, your kid, you don't deny that your children, oh my gosh, my children have the greatest need for snacks ever out of any human being, right? It's like,
Right.
I don't remember snacking so much when I was little, but like our children are walking needs, especially our babies, but it goes on a long time. And so if you really reflect on this, when did you decide that yours just went away? It's
Right.
just absurd.
Right.
And so I offer a lot to women in this section around, getting comfortable with having needs, understanding why they might feel uncomfortable having and expressing needs, and then how you get out of that.
Yeah. And then the last one I want to talk about is the importance of touch, because it is such an important regulator. And I don't think that we recognize that it's like the first line of defense. And when we're dysregulated and overstimulated, we tend to be like, do not touch me. I want to be in a dark room and like lights out, not like, or like zoning out with like a bag of Doritos and TV and like just like, or zoning out on TikTok or Instagram, like whatever it is for you. Right. But I have learned this in my exploration of sensory regulation and the nervous system through my own healing of like, actually what I need is like deep grounding touch. Like you discuss sex in the book, but for me, it's not as much about sex. And yes, that's very important and a regulator, but it's really about the touch aspect. And I think that it speaks to not just partnerships, but like really our children too. Like we're so touched out that like, how much are you laying with them? How much are you snuggling? How much are you holding their hand? Like it's so important. And we are just forgetting it. Like we're just forgetting that this is so healing and healthy.
Oh gosh. Well, yeah. I mean, it's your wheelhouse. I skim the surface on this one. I talk about like, skin to skin and things like that. But like that deep pressure stuff. I mean, our son Roy, and I share some stories, but he is like, awesome. He's such a cool kid. He's a highly sensitive kid though, who feels things in big, big ways. It's honestly I'm very similar to him. I just, all mine were shoved down. And so his are not. So he has the freedom to let this hang out sometimes. And, part of what we do for him is like, we have like a catalog of things where we'll be like, hey buddy, let's wheelbarrow around the house.
Yep.
Hey, he has weights in his room. He's 7 and he'll do curls or he does push-ups or I'll be like, can you handle touch? And he's like, yeah. And he gets in my lap and I squeeze him real, like not hard, but like comfortably firm. And it's like,
Yep.
we need these things too. I cannot tell you how many times I've like tried to move a wall and like all of a sudden I feel like a new woman. And so these things are so deeply healing. And, we talk about touch as a society. I feel like traditional self-care is all about the physical, all about the like, take a walk, do your nails, take a bath, and wonderful things. They will help. But also, there is more to it than just those surface level things. There are research-backed things that will really, really deeply help you with your regulation, with your connection, with tuning into your body and listening to it and responding in the ways that it needs. Because our bodies have a lot to say to us, but we really do tune them out a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And I think in order to give to yourself and flourish like you're supporting moms and women within this book is tuning into those things. Like that is part of putting on that oxygen mask, right? Like that's under the layer of that saying of like, well, what does that really actually mean? Like, what does it mean to do those things to give back to ourselves? And you said it earlier, like the awareness of how to figure out those things is where to start. And by you giving so many tangible steps and so many examples within your everyday life and sharing vulnerably about your children and sharing vulnerably about your partnership and how it's been for you as a mom is, I mean, I've said it over and over today, but it's like, it's so healing for others to know that it's okay to feel these things. And it just gives them a level of like, oh my gosh, thank gosh, someone finally said it because I thought I was alone. Like I thought it was just me, totally just me.
Oh yeah. And I've read self-help books before where I'm like really loving the info, but I'm also feeling really crappy because I'm like, oh man, I'm not doing some of that, or now I got to incorporate, oh wow, what all the damage I've done already. And so I'm hoping that there's like no hint of judgment or like stirring up of guilt or feelings of falling short as someone reads my book, because, we are all human. We make mistakes. We have opportunities to repair and make meaning of our mistakes, which is powerful. And relationships are these like moving, evolving things. And so there's a lot of room to still get it right, even if you reflect and say, wish I would have done that differently. There's a lot of opportunity to do it right moving forward.
Yeah. And you absolutely release that guilt and shame within the book because you give so many tangible life experiences of stuff that you have gone through and experiences and like an inside look into how it is for you and how it has been for you. And that gives the reader an ability to say, thank you, I'm not alone. Like, thank you, you're not telling me all the steps to take.
Yes.
But like, you don't really get it. It's, hey, I get it. And let me tell you, with all the research and my knowledge and schooling and all the different things and life experience, what has worked for me to be able to start to release all the things after the awareness, which is what we all want for everyone that we are in our, everyone that's in our community and everyone that we like come in contact with. Like that's the reason that we do what we do, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I have one last question for you. I would like to know for you, what did you learn from this experience of putting pen to paper? Like how has this experience of writing a book been for you?
That's such a good question. No one's asked me anything like that. So in some ways it came really easily because, and I don't mean to be annoying by saying that, because I have been dreaming about this for so long and just like I had fun writing it and sharing stories. And actually, like, what's kind of fun about it is that I lived those moments. There's actually no embellishment. Like everything happened like it was said in the book.
Yeah.
But to like analyze it now was really kind of cool to like organize it and almost like a case study, but of my own life was like kind of fun to process through that and to be like, oh wow, like I'm doing pretty good here. Like we're I've done these things that maybe in the moment didn't feel as intentional as they do looking back and reflecting. And I think that was really cool. There's a whole other side of writing a book that feels like you're just naked in front of everyone.
Totally.
And I don't mean it in terms of I don't have a problem being vulnerable and sharing. Probably I got to keep it in check, honestly, because I'm like, what do you want to talk about? But the thing of like putting out something that you really want to help people, and then having this worry of like, are people going to see this? Are people going to get it? Are people going to like it? I think there is some of that that just like kind of hangs over me a little
Totally.
bit that I'm trying to have compassion for and also not let it get in my way. But it's definitely a vulnerable experience.
Absolutely. I asked that because I wanted to know how it's been, of course, for you to write it. But also, I get asked all the time, like, are you writing a book? And I actually started one and I was like, you know what? Like, it's not time.
Yay!
But it was like years ago. Like,
Yeah.
I started this and I was like, hold on. Like, this is like, slow down. Like, this is going too fast. And so I paused it. And I cannot tell you how cool it is. And you should feel such a sense of pride and accomplishment and like, just be so proud because it's blood, sweat, and tears within that book, and it's
Yeah.
ripping like your insides out and laying it. It's like a journal. Like it honestly is like a verbal journal of, hey, this is my life, but like I would love to be able to walk you along this journey to support you in any way that I can, and I'm more than happy to share my own personal stories because of it. And at the same time, internally, I hope that I laid it out the great way, or I hope that I,
Yes.
like presented it in a way that feels so comforting, like you're saying, with a nice cup of coffee, with like a great, you know what I mean? With a great
Yes.
professional and all
Right.
the
It's like,
things.
oh gosh. I appreciate you saying that. I'll share one more thing about the book process. Maybe it will give
Yes.
you, I don't know what direction you're leaning, but so one thing is like also this feeling of like, I hope there's not too much me in it. Like I try to like
Mm,
walk that line of like, it's not about me, but
mm,
also I'm going to share some of me. So, you are normal.
exactly.
You are like not out there as this like outlier in your experiences. So
Yes.
so many things that you can like totally worry about. Okay, but I'll tell you this. I started the book, I don't even know. I probably when Roy's 7, probably when he was maybe 2. I would go to
Yeah.
the library a day a week for a couple hours and I would just work on my outline and
How
I
cool.
shelved it. I shelved it for years.
Yep.
And finally, I just was talking to my husband. His name's Chad. Talking to Chad one night, and I was like, if I don't write the book now, I will
Yeah.
never do it.
Yeah.
I'm realizing there is never a good time for me to do this. And if I wait much longer, I will be kind of moving out of that phase of motherhood. And it doesn't, the book is not for moms just with young kids, but like the ability to tell some of those stories when I'm still in it, I think
Yes.
translates differently.
Yep.
And so it was like, I have to do it when I'm in it. If I don't do it when I'm in it, people will feel it.
Yeah.
And I think that week I submitted with several agents and did interviews, got an agent, started working on my proposal, and like a year later I had a book deal. And so
That's
I'm just
incredible.
telling you, like, shelve it, but you'll know when it's time.
Yes. Yes. And if you think, like you said, like this has taken 10 years, right? And so
Mhm.
you've poured everything in, like this is your baby. Like this is a
Yeah.
big, big, big deal. And
Thank you.
it bleeds through with every single page. You have done such a phenomenal, phenomenal book and done such a great job at writing it. And
Thank
I
you.
would love for you to tell everyone where to get it and how to find you and all the different things so that they can go pre-order it and
Thank
get you
you.
all the accolades you are so deserving.
You're so gracious. Thank you. The book's available on any major retailer. So Amazon, Target, Barnes and Noble. Christian Books has it the best price. It's not a book with Christian content, but it is available there. And you can, so here's the thing. When you pre-order, it means a lot to authors because it just helps our numbers, helps our publisher like put more energy into us.
Yes.
If we're going to try to make a list, it helps. I mean, that would be a dream come true. It helps with all that. And so there are gifts that you get when you pre-order. You get the audio version of the intro and the first 2 chapters immediately, so you can start listening. I have an interview with I have a couple interviews that are exclusive. One in particular that's been getting really good feedback is about mom friends, which is such a big topic, and it's such a good interview. And so there's an accompanying guide and all sorts of stuff. So you can find all of that at drmorgancutlip.com. So it's drmorgancutlip.com/book. And you'll get the link to the retailers there, and also where you can get all those free gifts. Also on Instagram, Dr. Morgan Cutlip. Yeah, I'm there most of the time.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Thank you so much for taking time to sit down and share a little bit of an inside scoop of what to expect. And I can't I could not recommend this book enough. Please get yourself a copy and see exactly what I've seen in all these beautiful pages. And thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And until next time, XOXO, Dr. B.